Chapter 3, A Moment in the Ruins. Now that it was late afternoon, the cloud had dropped away from the face of the sun, which had melted the frost a little and warmed the day, and brought traces of the odour of spring to the landscape. Coram and the warrior Princess Maeve, nicknamed Of the Long Arm for her skill with snare and tathlum, rode horses out to the place which Coram called Eron and she called Owen. Though it was spring, there was no foliage on the trees and barely any grass growing upon the ground. It was a stark world, this world. Life was fleeing it. Coram remembered how lush it had been, even when he had left. It depressed him to think what so much of the country must look like after the Foy Muir, their hounds and their servants had visited it. They reined their horses near the edge of the cliff and looked at the sea muttering and gasping on the shingle of the tiny bay. Tall black cliffs, old cliffs and crumbling, rose out of the water, and the cliffs were full of caves as Coram had known them at least a millennium before. The promontory, however, had changed. Part of it had fallen at the centre, collapsing into the sea in a tumble of rotting granite, and now Coram knew why little of Castle Eron remained. There is what they call the She Tower, or Krem's Tower, see? Maeve showed him what she meant. It lay on the other side of the chasm created by the falling rock. It looks man-made from a distance, but it is really nature's work. But Coram knew better. He recognised the worn lines. When true, they seemed the work of nature, for Vadhag building had always tended to blend into the landscape. That was why, in his own time, some travellers even failed to realise that Castle Eron was there. "It is the work of my folk," he said quietly. "That is the remains of Vadhag architecture, though none would believe it, I know." She was surprised. She laughed. "So the legend has truth in it? It is your tower?" "No, I was born there," said Coram. He sighed. "And I suppose I died there too," he added. Leaving his horse, he walked to the edge of the cliff and looked down. The sea had a narrow channel through the gap. He looked across at the remains of the tower. He remembered Ralina, and he remembered his family. His father, Prince Kolonsky. His mother, the Princess Kolotalana. His sisters Ilastru and Polinara. His uncle, Prince Ranan. His cousin, Sitreda. All dead now. Ralina, at least, had lived her natural lifespan, but the others had been brutally slayed by Glandatha Cray and his murderers. Now none remembered them save Coram. For a moment he envied them, for too many remembered Coram. "But you live," she said simply. "Do I? I wonder if perhaps I am no more than a shade, a figment of your folks' desires. Already my memories of the past life grow dim. I can barely remember how my family looked." "You have a family, where you come from?" "Oh, I know that the legend says that I slept in the mound until I was needed, but that is not true. I was brought here from my own time, when Castle Eron stood where ruins stand now. There have been so many ruins in my life." "And your family is there? You left it to help us?" Coram shook his head and turned to look at her, smiling a bitter smile. "No, lady, I would not have done that. My family was slain by your race, by Mabden. My wife died," he hesitated. "Slain too?" "Of old age." "She was older than you?" "No." "You are truly immortal then?" She looked down at the distant sea. "As far as it matters, yes. That is why I fear to love, you see. I would not fear that. Neither did the Magravine Ralina, my bride, and I think I did not fear it, for I could not experience it until it happened. But when I experienced the loss of her, I thought I could never bear that emotion again. A single gull appeared from nowhere and perched on a nearby spur of rock. There had been many gulls here once. You will never feel that exact emotion again, Coram. True. And yet. You love corpses. He was offended. That is cruel. What is left of dead people is the corpse, and if you do not love corpses, then you must find something living to love. He shook his head. Is it so simple to you, Lady Maeve? I did not think I said something simple, Lady Coram of the Mound. He made an impatient gesture with his silver hand. I am not of the Mound. I do not like the implications of that title. You speak of corpses. Well, that title makes me feel like a corpse that has been resurrected. I can smell the mould on my clothes when you speak of the Lord of the Mound. The other legend said you drank blood. There were sacrifices on the mound during the darker times. Well, I have no taste for blood. His mood was lifting. The experience of the fight with the hounds of Keranos had helped rid him of some of his gloomy thoughts and replaced them with more practical considerations. And now he was reaching out to touch her face, to trace with his hand of flesh the line of her lips, her neck, her shoulder. And now they were embracing, and he was weeping and full of joy. They kissed. They made love near the ruins of Castle Arawn while the sea pounded in the bay below. And then they lay in the last of the sunshine looking out to sea. Listen. Maeve raised her head, her hair floating about her face. He heard it. He had heard it a little while before she mentioned it, but he had not wanted to hear it. A harp, she said. What sweet music it plays. How melancholy is that music. Do you hear it? Yes. It is familiar. Perhaps you heard it this morning just before the attack, he spoke, reluctantly, distantly. Perhaps, and in the grove of the mound. I know, just before your folk tried to summon me for the first time. Well, who is the harpist? What is the music? Coram was looking across the gulf at the Rowan's Tower. That was all that remained of Castle Arawn. Even to his eyes it did not look mortal built. Perhaps, after all, the wind and the sea had carved the tower, and his memories were false. He was afraid. She too now stared at the tower. That is where the music comes from, he said. The harp plays the music of time.